Undercover owner watched silently as a waitress with a broken hand struggled to keep pace in his diner. Her name was Maya Brooks, and with one arm wrapped in bandages, she carried trays through the crowd, wincing with every step. Her manager, Dean, never missed a chance to humiliate her. Loud insults, cruel smirks, always when people were watching. Some customers turned away, others whispered in pity, but Maya said nothing. What they didn't know was her injury wasn't an accident, and Dean's cruelty masked a deeper secret. From the corner booth, the owner knew something was wrong, and he was right. Before we go any further, if this is your first time watching one of our stories, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us bring more powerful moments like this to life. Stick around till the end, because what happened here will leave you stunned. And if it moves you, leave us a comment or share it with someone who needs to hear this. Now let's begin. The air in Lou's diner was thick with the scent of scorched bacon grease and overbrewed coffee. It was just past 7 a.m., and the breakfast rush had already hit full swing. Plates clattered, the bell over the grill rang in a constant rhythm, and coffee cups never stayed empty for more than a few minutes. But in the middle of all that organized chaos, one figure stood out, not because she was loud or flashy, but because she moved like someone fighting her own body just to survive the day. Her name was Maya Brooks. Her brown hair was tied into a quick bun, apron already stained before the second table had even ordered. Her right arm moved swiftly, pouring coffee, balancing trays, clearing dishes. But her left, wrapped in layers of white bandages from knuckles to wrist, it hung close to her body like something broken and punished. Every time she shifted, her eyes flinched, just a twitch, but it betrayed the truth. She was in pain. Real pain. Behind the counter, the manager, Dean, stood with a coffee mug that hadn't been refilled in hours. He leaned back on one foot, the other propped against the base of the register. His eyes tracked Maya like a hawk waiting for a rabbit to stumble. "Pick it up, Brooks," he snapped over the music. "We don't run a charity, you know." His voice was sharp enough to cut through steel. A few customers glanced over. One older man shook his head slowly. Two college-age girls at booth 5 leaned in, whispering, "Did you see her hand? She shouldn't even be working like that. Dean's such a jerk. He's always on her case." Maya heard it all, the whispers, the pity, the judgment. And worst of all, Dean's voice always louder, always crueler when there were witnesses. She said nothing. She never did. Her bills didn't care that her wrist was fractured. Her landlord didn't pause the rent. And Dean cared about one thing: obedience. By mid-morning, the pain in her shoulder was like fire. She'd been compensating all shift with one hand hoisting trays, spinning around tables, refilling mugs, and her body was starting to give out. She smiled as she dropped off pancakes to table 4, whispered, "Enjoy your meal," then turned and slammed right into Dean. The impact wasn't hard, but it was enough. The water glass on her tray slipped, landing on his shirt and soaking it down the front. The entire diner seemed to inhale at once. Dean looked down, then up, his face hardening into something mean. "Are you clumsy or just blind?" he hissed under his breath, stepping in close enough that she could smell the stale bitterness of day-old coffee on his breath. "What's next? You gonna drop hot soup on a baby?" A man at the counter muttered, "Come on, give her a break." But Dean didn't flinch. His eyes stayed locked on Maya like a wolf to a cornered doe. She opened her mouth to apologize, but he snatched the towel from her hand before she could raise it. "Don't even bother," he sneered, then turned back toward the register. Maya blinked hard. Not now, not here. Not tears, but as she bent down to pick up the broken glass, something in her chest burned hotter than pain. Rage, maybe, but buried under that, fear, because she knew why Dean was like this. And it had nothing to do with broken glasses. 2 weeks ago, she had been cleaning up the booths, her headphones dead, the music system off, just her and the night. She passed the office and heard voices. Dean, laughing, bragging. Something about register logs and extra bonuses. She thought maybe she was mistaken until she heard it clearly. No one even checks the drawer on Sundays. It's an easy 300, just slip it right out. She paused, frozen in the hallway. That was theft. Serious theft. And then she made the mistake of standing too long. A board creaked under her boot. Dean came out. Too fast, too hard. His face full of fury. What did you hear? He snapped. A nothing. She stammered. I was just cleaning. His hand lashed out before she could even move. He grabbed her wrist, twisted, and something gave way. A sickening pop echoed through her arm. She collapsed to the floor, eyes wide with pain. Clumsy, he growled. You'd better keep it that way. He walked away like nothing had happened. And the next morning, Maya came in with her arm wrapped and her voice locked behind her. Teeth. She didn't report it. Who would believe her? Dean already had her name on 5 written warnings. For things she never even did. Now that broken hand was proof of silence. It pulsed under the bandages like a reminder of what she saw, what she heard, and what it cost her to keep quiet. At the back corner booth, someone stirred their coffee slowly. A man in a dark denim jacket with white hair neatly combed and eyes that missed nothing. Everyone knew him only as the regular. Quiet, kind, never caused a stir. He always left a generous tip and asked for his eggs over easy. What they didn't know, what no one suspected, was that he wasn't just another old man passing the time. He was the owner. And today, something about Maya Brooks didn't sit right. With him, the man's name was Raymond Clark. Most folks just called him Ray, and that was fine with him. He liked being underestimated. For years, he'd owned Lou's Diner, but chose to operate from the shadows. He'd seen enough in his life, served overseas, built businesses from the ground up, lost people, gained perspective. Now he liked to sit where no one looked twice and watch what others thought no one was watching. That morning, his coffee had long gone cold, but he hadn't touched it. His eyes were locked on Maya. He'd noticed her before. Always early. Always. Working harder than everyone else. She didn't gossip behind the counter or take long breaks out back to smoke like some of the others. No, Maya moved like someone who didn't have a backup plan. And Ray respected that. But today was different. The way her good arm trembled slightly from overuse, the tight wince she hid behind that tired smile, the bandages too tight, too swollen beneath the gauze. It wasn't just an accident. He knew that kind of injury. And more than that, he recognized the way she avoided Dean's gaze. Like a dog that had learned not to trust the hand that feeds it, Dean strutted past Ray's booth, laughing at a joke only he found funny, phone in hand, oblivious to the growing weight of Ray's stare. A minute later, Maya passed him with a tray full of plates. Her hand shook slightly. Hey Dean, she asked gently, could you give me a hand with the— Dean didn't even stop, he didn't look. Use both hands, he barked. Then, with a cruel smirk, oh wait, you can't. His voice echoed across the diner like a cracked bell. Some customers chuckled nervously, unsure if it was a joke or not. Ray didn't laugh, he didn't flinch, but his jaw tightened. That was the moment something shifted in him. He watched closely over the next hour. Dean wasn't just impatient. He was precise in his cruelty. Every mistake Maya made real or imagined was met with a public comment, a dropped fork, a second wipe on a clean counter, a breath too long between tables. Dean pounced like he'd been waiting for it. Ray folded his napkin, rose from the booth, and approached the front counter. Dean looked up, his fake smile locked and ready. Coffee too cold for you, old-timer. Ray ignored the jab. I've been watching that waitress all morning. The one with the injury. Why is she on shift? Dean rolled his eyes like it was a question he got 10 times a day. Maya? She begged to keep working. Said she needed the hours. Honestly, she's more trouble than she's worth. I'm being generous letting her stay. Ray didn't respond. He just nodded slowly and walked away, but something deep in his chest stirred. He'd run businesses long enough to know the sound of a lie, and Dean was full of them. Later that day, as the lunch crowd thinned and the diner's pace slowed, Ray moved quietly toward the back hallway under the pretense of heading to the restroom. But instead of turning left, he eased open the door to the office. It was unlocked. The room was a mess, papers everywhere, receipts in disarray, a coffee mug tipped over beside the register logbook. Ray sifted through the papers carefully. That's when he found them. Misconduct forms. Pages and pages of them. And nearly every one of them had Maya Brooks scribbled across the top. Spilled water. Late orders. Talking back. Poor attitude. One even claimed she had thrown a plate at a customer. Ray frowned. None of it matched what he'd seen. He'd sat in that booth for months. Maya had never once raised her voice. Never slacked off. Never so much as frowned at a customer. He kept digging, and that's when he found the register logs. The numbers were off. Every week, small dips in the tally, nothing major. Just enough to look like a mistake if you didn't know better. But Ray knew better. He'd caught men stealing in his own companies before knew how the game was played. Take a little here, a little there, blame it on bad math, a faulty drawer, or worst of all, on someone already problematic. His stomach turned. Dean wasn't just a bad manager, he was a thief. And if Ray's gut was right, he was using Maya to cover his tracks. That night, Ray stayed longer than usual. The diner had emptied out, and only a few regulars nursed their late-night coffees. Maya moved slower now, dragging her feet, favoring her side. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week. Dean disappeared into the office with one of his buddies, laughing too loud. The door didn't close all the way. Ray sat near enough to hear. Another 500 this week, Dean boasted. Easy. That girl makes it too simple. She's already got enough warnings on file to get fired twice. You're playing with fire, the friend mumbled. Nah, Dean said, taking a sip. She won't talk, not with that hand. Broke it good enough she remembers who's in charge. Ray froze. He felt the air shift in the room. That wasn't just theft. That was assault. That was abuse. His hands, once steady from years of service, clenched into fists beneath the table. He kept his face blank, didn't move. But inside, a storm. Raged. Dean's laughter carried through the hallway like a ghost. Ray slipped out into the night without a word. The cold hit his face like a slap, but it didn't matter. Tomorrow, the mask would come off. Dean had made two fatal mistakes. He'd underestimated Maya, and he'd forgotten someone else was watching. The next morning arrived with the usual. Soundscape forks clinking, pans hissing, orders being shouted over the counter. The smell of burnt toast mingled with fried sausage, and the first batch of regulars had already staked their claim on their favorite booths. Maya was there, like always. Her hair tied back, her apron clean at the start of the day, but her eyes heavy and distant. She moved table to table with robotic rhythm, her bandaged hand tucked closely to her side. If you didn't look carefully, you might have thought she was fine. But if you paid attention, you'd see the truth. Her steps dragged. Her smile cracked at the edges, and her left arm hung lower than it should, like it was ashamed to be seen. Dean, on the other hand, was his usual self. Laughing too loudly at his own jokes, flirting with waitresses who barely tolerated him, and barking at Maya any time she so much as paused to take a breath. Raymond Clark walked in just after 9 a.m. Same denim jacket. Same slow, measured stride. Same black coffee order. But this morning, there was something different in the way he moved. His shoulders were squared, his jaw set tighter, and in his hand was a leather folder worn at the edges, but packed with weight. He took his usual. Booth set the folder beside his mug, and waited. Dean spotted him almost immediately. You again? he called, flashing a crooked smile. Back for those over-easy eggs, huh? Ray didn't answer. He stood slowly and made his way to the center of the diner. He pulled a spoon from his jacket pocket and tapped it gently against the side of his coffee mug. Clink, clink, clink. The sound rang out soft, but clear enough to still the room. Conversations paused. Coffee cups hovered midair. Maya, halfway through refilling a cup at table 6, froze. "Morning, everyone," Ray said, voice calm and measured. "Sorry to interrupt your breakfast. I won't take long, but I think it's time you all knew who I really am." Dean chuckled, arms crossed. "What, you writing a novel or something?" Ray's eyes didn't move from his. "No, I'm the owner of this diner." Silence fell like a dropped plate. A fork clattered onto a saucer. A few customers gasped. One of the kitchen staff leaned out from behind the pass, eyes wide. Maya stood frozen in place, lips parted slightly, as though she hadn't fully heard what he just said. Dean's laugh was thin now, strained. "You're joking." Ray reached for the folder and opened it on the counter in front of him. Pages spilled out photocopies of register logs, printed misconduct reports, timestamps, photos. "I've been watching long enough," he said, flipping through the sheets. "I've seen every report you filed against Maya, every dollar that didn't line up. And last night, I heard exactly what you said when you thought no one was listening." Dean's face drained of color. A woman at table 3 whispered to her friend, "I knew it. I knew something was wrong." "This is ridiculous," Dean snapped, reaching for the papers. "You can't prove any of this." But before he could touch them, the front door chimed. 2 uniformed officers stepped in. Ray didn't look at them. "You might want to speak to that man," he said calmly. "His name is Dean Foster. Manager here. Suspected of embezzlement, falsifying employee misconduct, and assaulting a staff member. The victim's standing right over there." The officers didn't hesitate. One moved toward Dean as the other began reading him his rights. Dean backed away, stammering, arms half raised in protest. "Wait, hold on, this is a setup. She's lying. She's just mad I wrote her up." "Save it for the station," one of the officers replied, snapping the cuffs into place. Customers murmured, some recording on their phones, others shaking their heads in disbelief. A few clapped quietly. Dean's protests were drowned out by the sound of the cuffs clicking closed and the heavy silence he left in his wake. As the door closed behind him, all eyes turned back to Ray. But Ray turned to Maya. She stood near the Kiva kitchen, hand to her mouth, tears lining her lashes but not falling. Her chest rose and fell quickly, but she didn't move. "You've carried this place on your back," Ray said, voice softer now. "While others lied about you, you kept it running. You showed up every day, even when you shouldn't have, even when it hurt." Maya blinked, a single tear slipping past the dam. She lowered her good hand from her mouth, her lips trembling. "From today forward," Ray continued, "you're not just a waitress. You're the new floor supervisor, salary included." Gasps followed, then applause, real applause this time, not awkward, not unsure. Customers, cooks, busboys clapped until the air felt like it had been cleared of something poisonous. Maya took a shaky step forward, then another. She placed her bandaged hand gently over her chest and tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, she pressed it to her lips, nodded, and sobbed once quietly, but free. The rest of the shift moved like a dream. Ray returned to his usual booth, but this time, the smile on his face wasn't just polite. It was pride. The diner smelled the same: coffee, eggs, syrup, but everything felt different. Maya moved from table to table, her limp still there, her bandaged arm still healing. But now people greeted her differently, with respect, with warmth. The hush of pity had transformed into admiration. Outside, the sun burned away the last of the morning haze. Dean Foster was gone, and in his place, something new had taken root. Justice. Hope. and a reminder that sometimes the quietest workers carry the heaviest loads, and they deserve to be seen. Never underestimate the quiet resilience of those who keep showing up even when life gives them every reason to stop. Maya's story is a reminder that the strongest people often suffer in silence, but the truth always rises, and justice never forgets. If you believe in standing up for what's right, if you think voices like Maya's deserve to be heard, then hit that subscribe button, share this video with someone who needs hope, and drop your thoughts in the comments below, because your voice matters too.